Hey everybody, how's it going? Matt here, coming at you with an indicator video. And today we're going to be talking about the Ranger. And now this is actually one of the most complicated, actually probably the most complicated indicator that we have to date. And so I'm really going to be taking this one slow, explaining everything sort of piece by piece, and just really making sure I'm actually going to break up these videos. There's probably going to be 4 or 5 different videos in this sort of series about this particular indicator. And I'm really going to make sure you guys got this one because it is, I think, it is our most popular indicator for good reason. I think it's a super powerful indicator, and I'm going to kind of let it speak for itself. I'm not going to talk it up too much here. I'm sure you guys have kind of already seen it before, but it's the one that gives you the buys and sell signals. So for good reason, it kind of attracts a large audience. But I'm actually going to just, I want to mention a couple real quick kind of house cleaning things here. We actually have 2 versions, well, technically 3 versions of this indicator. So we had our original version, which was just like the Ranger 1.0. We didn't call it the 1.0, but we just called it the Ranger. And all it had was just buy and sell signals. And that was great. And people loved it. It was good for what it was worth. But, at least I felt like there was a really big piece missing, which was the whole risk management piece. So the entries were good, but there really was no um, clear guidance on where to place your stop loss. There was no clear guidance on where to take profit. And so that was the big thing that we were kind of missing in terms of this indicator. And so, we can go into the settings here. There was really only 2 settings, and I could even argue really only 1 setting that really mattered. So that was that. And, again, my whole goal with the Ranger 2.0 was to build in that risk management into the indicator. So everything that you see with this indicator in the next 5 minutes, you're going to understand, when I say risk management, what that sort of means. But it basically just means a take profit and a stop loss, right? Like that's kind of it. So I'm going to go ahead and show actually one other thing that I wanted to mention too is we have a Ranger 2.0 for Forex and then one for stocks. And that's what I mean when I said we had 3 versions total. We got the 1.0 and then the 2.0 for Forex and then the one for stocks. And also, by the way, the one for stocks also works for crypto the same exact way. We just didn't want to call it stocks and crypto because stocks just kind of sounds better, I guess. But and you'll sort of understand why we had to do 2 separate versions once I get into it. But basically, it just has to do with the fact that people trade Forex in pips, people trade stocks and crypto in percentages. And that's a pretty huge difference there. So that's why, and you'll see when we get to the alerts why exactly. So when I first add it to my chart, the 2.0, this is what it's going to make your chart look like. Now, don't freak out. Don't think that there's something wrong with the indicator. That's just how it is when you very first add it to your chart. All you got to do, go into settings, go into style, scroll all the way down, and uncheck these five boxes at the bottom. So these bottom 5 boxes, just uncheck those and you're good to go. And that's it. That's all you got to do. And even if you exit out of the indicator and then you add it back to the same chart, it's not going to do that again. Only I think when you load a new chart. So that's it, guys, in terms of adding it to your chart. But there's a lot more to it. So when you first add it to your chart, you're probably going to see these red lines and these dark gray or darker colored lines. And you might be confused at first what that means, but it's actually very simple. So these darker colored lines are just take profit lines or resistance lines. And I'll get into why I say or in just a minute. The red line is just a stop loss. There's no or to that. That's all that is a stop loss. So jumping into the settings here, again, I told you I'm going to go through a high level overview of this indicator. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about each one of these settings because it'll take me 25 minutes and you guys will get bored and go and start looking in your fridge and seeing what's to eat for dinner and yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to make this video. I'm probably only going to spend about another 5 minutes at most, just going through everything at a high level. And then I'm going to break it down and take each one piece by piece in the subsequent videos. So stay tuned for that. But and also don't get confused if you feel like I'm going too fast. I promise you, I'm going to go through each one of these in detail. The first setting that we see here, that's the same as the Ranger 1.0. That's just adjusting the buy and sell entries. Nothing new there. Same as before. Same old jazz. Now here we start. That's the only thing that's the same, right? Everything else is different. So the resistance setup. So this is for adjusting the levels of resistance, which we can see here with these darker colored lines. And I don't really want to jump ahead, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So when we go to the take profit, there's two ways where we can set a take profit. We can choose the resistance levels, or we can manually enter in, and these are all in pips. So we have 3 take profits, and we can manually enter those in, or we can just choose the resistance levels, which, by the way, if you have checked out our supporter indicator yet, or if you have used that or seen our videos for that, all we did was take the code, that piece from the supporter indicator, from the main support and resistance, and put that into here. So it's using those support and resistance levels for finding these into kind of like you could use as a take profit in a way. And why I say in a way is because you don't necessarily want to use these resistance levels as a take profit every time, because again, price is going to resist hitting these levels. So you might want to place a limit order a little bit above those resistance levels. Just something to think about there. But sometimes it will, like I think like this case was perfect, right? Because we had 3 resistance levels, 1, 2, 3, and and it just hit them all perfectly. Like this could not have been really a more perfect trade, because we got our first take profit hit, boom, then we got our second one hit, and even our third one hit. And I just go in real quick and see, that was a total of, that would have been like 674 pips. And I know you're probably going, wow, that's great. And it's not always going to be that perfect, but a lot of times the resistance levels do work really great, or do work really well for getting you out of the trade at the right time. We can see here also another great trade here, 1, 2, 3. But like I said, you can also choose manual if you want to enter in manually the number of pips that you want to choose, and that's totally fine as well. And you could play around with that and see what sort of floats your boat there. And I know I'm jumping backwards here, but let's talk about the stop loss for a second. And by the way, I'm gonna take all of these resistance levels off just for now, so I don't confuse you. So for the stop loss, oops, I actually moved my stop loss ones too. So let me add that back. So the stop loss, we have 3 ways of doing that. We also have a manual entry for that, which we can see here, and we put in here in the settings. We also have the average true range, ATR, or we can use the last pivot low. And again, I'm going to make another video talking specifically about stop loss. And then let's see, after that, we have some options here for our trailing take profit or our trailing stop. And if you don't know what the difference is between a trailing take profit and a trailing stop, there is no difference. So it's the same thing. People just call it 2 different things sometimes, but trailing stop, trailing take profit, same thing. So that's actually it in terms of the high level overview of what's going on here. Not too bad, right? I mean, it's I know that there's a lot of settings, and it could be maybe confusing at first, but really there's at the end of the day, there's only really 3 things going on here. There's your buy and sell signals. There's your stop loss setup, which includes I forgot to mention this. I'll mention this in a second. But there's your stop loss setup, and there's your take profit setup, and your take profit setup includes this trailing take profit. Another thing I'll briefly touch over is you can actually have the option here to move your stop loss up to your break even. And I'm going to make, again, that's going to be in my stop loss video. So stay tuned for that, guys. I promise you only 5 minutes more of your time, and I might be over that, but my apologies if I am. But if not, stay tuned for the next videos where we're going to be digging in deeper to all of those things here. So stay tuned and happy trading.